Off. So, greetings everybody. This is another edition of A Round, where we're having a micro learning. But A Round is a community of decision makers from software startups that are that have raised their Series A or are looking to raise it, or are sufficiently bootstrapped. I've been a bootstrapper, so I want to make sure to at least include myself in the definition. Um, and you can see more about it and what we're doing on launches.work/around, either the events that are upcoming or have been, and then of course on the LinkedIn page. Um, to be a member, you simply need to be a company in that phase of life, and you are the um, head of engineering, the VP of customer success, the chief revenue officer, obviously a founder. It could be any of these things, but head of, VP of, C-level of, founder of, and that is for the group that we have uh, privately. Anyone and everyone is welcome to join these events, and so to get it started, since we have a few people here already, for this actionable intelligence, this micro learning, it is 15-minute presentation, 10 minutes of discussion with one actionable takeaway. That is something that you can do. You're able to go and implement this after coming today. So I want to take a time to pass the mic to everybody that's here. We want to start with to introduce yourself. It's name, role, company, and what you're looking for. So for example, for me, I would be Josh Rosenthal, community manager at A-Round, and I'm looking for leaders at startups to join A-Round. Um, and especially in my case, I'll talk about it a little bit more later. We have a new content type coming up in December. So I'm especially looking for those leaders that are willing to share an existing business issue. So let's go and pass the mic. And do we want to start with Alexander? Are you able to jump in here? Or do I need to bring you
Yep.
in? Because
Can you see me?
no, you know what I did? I think I pinned everybody that's here, and therefore, what do I need to do? But
I'm here.
yeah, you're here, but you're not showing up on the screen, and I think that's because of me. So let me do this. I'm going to unpin me and make room. Unpin from everyone's screen. I'm going to unpin from everyone's screen, I think. Hmm. You know what?
Josh, see the other speakers or the other members.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everyone's able to get their mic time, and here I am, having everything ready to go, I thought, but obviously not. So, um, let's see here. Unpin, unpin. Does this give us everybody? Man, oh man, I'm losing. All right. Well, let's just go for it anyway and just start going. So, Alexander, if you want to begin,
Yep.
um, yeah.
Yep. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Hi, Josh. My name is Alex Ignatov. I'm a founder and head of AI of a company called Mental Momentum. And overall, I actually coming from machine learning experience. I spent about 5 years at Amazon as a senior data science lead before I started my own company. And I'm looking for exchange of experience among leaders and learn.
All right. Excellent. Um, Mr. John, do you want to jump in next?
Yeah, John Peters, co-founder of Canoe.ai, which is deep tech in the travel space. And I'm very interested in today's presentation because it's Agentic, which is a really hot item. So that's looking for interesting things, stimulating conversation, stimulating really smart people like Mr. Ignatov.
All right. Christine, in fact, you're coming up. You're going to be presenting soon, so I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks, Josh. Christine Carrig, head of demand gen and marketing operations. I'm currently a consultant, and I'm looking for connections and learning from the pros.
All right. Mr. Steve, glad to have you here. Are you in transit right now?
No, I'm leaving for OWASP tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I'll see you there. But please, introductions. Even though you've already
Yeah,
been a presenter here, and I appreciate that, but for those that haven't seen that.
sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what I do. I'm at a few different AI security startups at the moment. One that just got acquired by Checkpoint. So what my title is now, I have no idea, but largely responsible for go-to-market strategy, ecosystem, and community building within AI security. So I am super keen, and good to see you again, Philippe, to hear what you have to say about agentic security.
Cool. All right. So anyone out there that's on the meeting, you can go and rate me. But at this point, we're just going to limit it to the people that are in the meeting. So let me introduce our speaker, though I think many of us already know him. From prompts to power, securing the leap to agentic AI, Philippe, and he is an AI and agentic security expert. So, Mr. Philippe, why don't you take 2 bites of the apple? One, introduce yourself and what you're looking for, and then jump on into what you have for us.
All right. Thanks for the opportunity to be here, first of all. Cool initiative. So I'm Philip, and I basically am a cloud consultant. Been involved in quite a lot of startups in the past, and recently I started to investigate everything which is cybersecurity, AI related, and with the sole purpose actually to build some kind of bridge between the wild west in AI and whatever place in cybersecurity. And that's my main goal. And the few minutes I've left, I spent twisting my head, like I say always, on how to build the next magic security product for AI. So,
All right. Take it
all
away.
right. Let me try to share my screen here. You should see my slides if everything works out as expected. So, title from prompts to power is basically about how things evolved in the last year. Actually, about a year ago, everybody was super surprised when we could prompt ChatGPT. We got some good or bad answers. Security back then focused mostly on getting a grip on, is this actually trustworthiness? How do we avoid hallucinations? How do we implement grounding mechanisms and so on? We were more concerned about, what is this model telling us? Is it true? Can we trust it? But in the meanwhile, these models got much, much larger, smarter, and something we tend to forget, which I think is very important, is they got extremely good at reasoning themselves across problems. And that is exactly what makes these agentic systems so powerful. That is the possibility to reason across very complex problems. And as I said, these agents rely on these models to reason, to solve the problems. But what makes it a little bit worse is they are also using these reasoning mechanisms to actually make decisions on how agents or software, perhaps in the next coming months, robots, how they will actually interact with the environments they are dealing with, whether this is an operating system or an API or with LinkedIn or whatever. So it's something to think about. And yeah, it struck me a little bit how powerful that reasoning became, a little bit surprising. So I already introduced myself, but at the end, I spent a couple of years in application and cloud native security. That's why I know a few of you. But last 2 years, I basically started exploring that intersection of agentic AI and cybersecurity. Why? Because as with all new technology, I've been at the forefront of Docker, Kubernetes, firewalls, except the firewalls. Then you saw that Docker, Kubernetes in the beginning, it was totally no security mind around it. Yeah, there were a lot of startup companies that started to build around cloud native and Docker and Kubernetes security, but it took a pretty long time before it actually catched up. And still, it's not the biggest concern. How did I start with this adventure? Honestly, I did this through reading and analyzing, I'm not joking, about 50 books through a method I coined myself as AI assisted learning, where I typically use a book, and when I don't understand, instead of stopping, I just use Agentic AI or ChatGPT for that matter to actually understand and actually translate it in my language. That helped me a lot, but also, yeah, we all know this for sure. People in this event is to actively participate in meetups and conferences, and I think I must have done 100 plus meetups in the last 2 years, 2 years and a half. And what I've learned through this journey, even simply motivates me even more to keep on building these bridges across these communities. And that's also why I'm doing this talk, honestly, and to invite everybody to build these bridges in between. So feel free to reach out on LinkedIn if you would like to. The era of agentic AI, we all know that generative AI has achieved a very broad awareness. It's hard to even look at the local news at 7 o'clock here in Belgium without mentioning of AI or something else. And yeah, it's there, it's not going away. But what I feel like we didn't catch yet is that we're now rapidly moving into an era of agentic AI. And I was kind of surprised. I was hosting a training a couple of weeks ago, how much people actually were interested in following something which was called agentic systems, without even the name AI in the title. So, and we're moving in that era very fast. And the key thing to take away here is that we're not talking about generating text or summarizing a text or generate a cool image. But when we talk about agentic AI, this happens more in the background, typically. And we're talking about software that is actually planning, deciding, taking actions on our behalf, and even can coordinate other agents. And that's a totally new game. Yeah? Very often these agents are asynchronous, which means that you give them a task, and then after 10, 15, an hour perhaps, they come back and tell you, okay, I solved this task. I typically look at this from a DevOps security perspective, but an example could be like, investigate me this alert in AWS, for example, and tell me your findings. And I just wait a couple of minutes and I get a very extensive report on what it found, what was impacted, and so on and so forth. And this is also what these big companies are actually looking for. All big tech companies, they need to monetize these investments in the huge amount of GPUs they have. And honestly, in our region here in Benelux, one of the big tech companies, they even organize travel between Brussels and Amsterdam with buses full of developers to go and learn about the latest and newest agentic frameworks, which says a lot, I think. So now that we've introduced agentic AI and the fact that it's there to actually take decisions and plan itself through solving any type of problems. There's an important thing to mention. Although I always talk about AI and how cool it is, but we should not shy away from traditional code or simple workflows because they're predictable. At the moment autonomous agents come in, we're dealing with highly unstructured data, input not been seen before, so we don't really know exactly how these agents or models are going to behave. Very often it is treated as a black box component with access to different tooling. I don't totally agree with what I'm writing down there, because tools do exist to make it less a black box, and there is provisioning and support for tracing and alerting and so on and so forth. The problem is it's never used. Yeah. So dealing with agentic AI might look easy, but I typically say it's like 5-6 lines of Python code and you have a full agentic agent that can search the internet. When you need to deal with all the security implications, we end up with quite a lot of more lines of code. And I'm just here to create awareness that this is necessary, because we're dealing with technology that we never dealt with before. And I try to summarize or categorize more or less the agentic applications around, but that's typically an impossible job because it means that you have to update your slides essentially every day. But what we see in growth categories here is, and I say I'm looking from a security and a DevOps angle, is typically agents or assistants that deal with development environments, but that could be simply also a chatbot with agentic powers. Chatbots that can search and look for orders, or search the internet, or deal with, for example, Kubernetes security issues. There are agents in the background. So I would categorize this as inline assistants. What we see more and more are agents that deal with the agent mode. If you're familiar with GitHub Copilot, you will see that there is an agent mode. And that basically means that that agentic agent or that AI mechanism can do a lot of tasks, from dealing with GitHub, searching the AWS documentation, deal with Terraform code, execute Terraform code, and so on and so forth. So we see a lot of these agentic systems deal with coding. Recently, we also see a rise in everything which is CLI terminal-based agents, which basically an old CLI terminal we all used to work with. Today are available as simply as an AI agent, and you just tell it what to do. Things like rename every file and start with increase the number of the file, for example. It all works. It was brought to my attention that there are quite a lot of platforms, but also security platforms at this moment, that basically have agentic AI running to deal with tasks in the platform. So you don't see it anymore. You probably don't even know they are there, but in the background, there is AI in the works. We're probably all familiar with desktop OS agents like Cloud Desktop and so on and so forth. But if you followed the news last week, I think, or just 2 weekends before, ChatGPT announced its agentic browser. Pretty cool to work with. As I said, these are more like OS code development environments, but the real risk is also about everything which is low code, no code agents. I don't know if you ever played with N8N. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but it's like basically a workflow. And these agents, they have really no built-in security. I'm not saying the tool is bad. Yeah, it's just too easy to start playing with, if you don't know or you cannot anticipate all the security implications that come along. And then every big vendor already has its own API SDKs that come with the tens a week, I think. So it's a kind of very hard place to go and introduce security. So, but why should we actually look at the problem? First of all, the attack surface is expanding increasingly. Like a chatbot, all right, cool, it can talk with an LLM and it can give you some information. But agentic AI, we start interacting. And to make a very long story short, one of the biggest problems there are today is indirect prompt injection. You've heard, and you've probably seen on LinkedIn, that GitHub repositories were hijacked through indirect prompt injection, or CVs were basically manipulating scoring processes. It's a big problem, and even I think in the Financial Times this week or end of last week, big tech companies admitted that it is a very hard problem to solve. And I'm not saying you cannot do anything against it, but taking away the risk at a 100% is probably not possible anytime soon. Another big problem that is typically overlooked is the excessive agency of agentic systems. These agentic systems, they have a purpose, they have a goal, they should solve the problem you presented. It doesn't mean that an agent can do anything it technically wants. For example, we've seen cases where we could basically ask an agentic AI agent to look through an issue on AWS, but that exact same agent could also delete the application on AWS, and that's not what you actually want when you deal with a security incident. Now, this is all cool. This all works fine in a lab. In production, this is a totally other game, and things are not getting any better. It's hard not to have seen it, but there is an immense push to agent, multi-agent systems. Google donated A2A to the CNCF Foundation recently. And that's not just for fun, because all these big players are getting ready for what we call agent-to-agent commerce and agentic payments. It's not new. OpenAI has been talking about Stripe on how to deal with payments inside of ChatGPT or GPT Atlas. I've seen that Visa and MasterCard are coming out with protocols and procedures to deal with agentic payments. But at the end of the day, somebody needs to limit these boundaries, and we should be all accountable. If you don't believe me when I say how much this excessive agency and indirect prompt injection can do bad things, left here a link to a YouTube video I presented where I demonstrate how an agentic model actually creates new tools on the user's behalf. So have fun.
Okay, real quick, just to maintain the time, I want to make sure that we still leave time for people to ask questions.
Yeah. So e-security risks here, privilege, identity, agents deal on behalf of users, so I have to deal with it. A lot of new things are coming out, like memory poisoning. It just has to happen once, and you can deal with the problems over a very long time. These memory tools, they can act over weeks, months, and basically we need to create visibility and be out of the ball.
Yeah. So you know, the takeaway here is not just having the AI, but it's making sure to secure the AI because of the vulnerabilities that this new attack surface provides.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so by the way, for the takeaway, anyone dealing or concerned with their AI can also be in touch to get an idea of a checklist that one should look through, at least for consideration when you're adding this new threat vector or you know, attack surface. And I think we actually have some people also from the industry, and I know a bunch of other questions. So in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, shoot. So I've just shown you the takeaway. I think a good step forward if you start out is, first of all, make sure that you know which agents are running in your systems. Could be a good starting point. List and document permissions and interactions because it can go very, very far. Please analyze what decisions agents can make. And it's not as obvious as that, but a good thing to think about. And my last point is please monitor and create audit trails of whatever these agents do. You will be grateful afterwards that you can actually trace back what went wrong.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, Alexander, I know that with your startup, you're going and use. Actually, while I not take the Steam, why don't you go ahead and talk about just like in a few seconds how you're using AI and how you'd like to use AI, recognizing the attack surface that you've created.
Yeah, it's actually, well, first of all, thanks, Philippe, for this great presentation. And I think you surfaced the problems that unlike other, like previous technologies, let's say containers or microservices, these are much bigger challenges because agents and agentic systems start to behave more like humans and like traditional, least privilege rule, which used a lot. Well, we all know in practice it's really hard to implement when we dealing with people and organization. Most of the time people have, super admin, super rights just because something needs to be completed quickly. And for us, we take it actually very really seriously. We implement multi-layer input checks, starting from regular expression checking for the obvious attacks, and then go into moderation APIs, and then go into the more powerful model to first assess if there is anything malicious in the input. The challenge with that is the cost, right? And that's the golden balance, and to maintain between keep it cost efficient and secure. But I think one of the largest challenge is inherently non-deterministic behavior of these agents. And I wanted to add, just because I found that not many people actually, even those who build in AI startups, know that, for instance, OpenAI has moderation API, which is completely free. Like as long as you use OpenAI, you can use this API for free. And many folks just don't know about it.
Yep. So yeah, good point made. In fact, just in the time we have left, Mr. Steve, I know that this is your bag, um, as it would be said. Um, I know that you have ideas on tooling without going and being an ad for any one of them. Is that, are there other elements to go and add that someone should have in the checklist? And this is both to you, Steve and Philip. Are there open source projects that one may want to consider, or open source checklists?
I mean, you're talking about checklists. I mean, I'm going to answer your question with a question just to set Philippe up. What do you think about supply chain provenance within AI security, specifically around tooling and MCP, which is, you may already said the world Wild West, right? What's wilder than the Wild West? I don't know.
Yeah,
That.
like my colleagues know that I'm pretty fond of MCP and model context protocol, but also with all the problems that come along. And yeah, I find it incredibly difficult to understand that these problems simply come back. Like the most obvious application security problem, like command injection or directory traversal, we've been dealing with that for 17 or 18 years, trying to create very large communities to deal with this, and it just comes back. I mean, just go and download or install the npm package for one of the most popular MCP servers. You find like 6 command injections, and you find very vulnerable packages. And nobody seems to make that tie between code security, runtime, the basic stuff, writing something secure, and yeah, that strikes me. And that's why I'm pretty sure that AI might replace some people's job, but not security people's job. So.
All right. I know that we're over time. From at this point, what I want to do is end the stream for the people on LinkedIn Live. Everybody that has gone and applied at launches.work/a-round, welcome to stay, continue the conversation. I do want to mention that in December, we're going to be starting a new format type. While we'll still have times when we have these expert opinions, we're going to be looking for companies that have a business problem to solve. I'm going to keep revealing a little bit more and a little bit more about what's coming. But right now, we're looking for funded companies, companies that are sufficiently bootstrapped. I want to make sure not to remove myself from the group here, who have a business problem to solve and are ready to open it up to a series of, to a group of experts to go and attack live on camera. So that's the teaser for what's coming up in December. We still have a few more events before then. And Mr. Philippe, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you sharing the expertise, especially as AI becomes even more involved in our daily business lives and personal lives. So at this point, last word to you, and then I'm going to end the stream. Everyone else, stay on.
So thanks for the opportunity and deal with AI in a secure way. So.
Well, hey, do you want to go and pitch BrewCon? I mean, this is your event.
All right, yeah. Okay, so I gladly take that opportunity. So I'm running one of the biggest European hacking conferences in Belgium. Deals with cybersecurity AI. We had some robots available this year, so feel free to check out brewcon.org. It's a non-profit organization where we have like 14, I would say young guys, but then I don't take myself into account, setting up a very good hacking and security conference. So feel free to check it out, brewcon.org.
We'll have content online. All right. So